Imagine spending your whole life building skills in a career you love only to have the person you care about most tell you that you are not good enough because of that job. That is exactly what happened when my fiancée suggested an open relationship, but only for her because I was just a mechanic not worthy of her. What she did not know was that I had a plan. Before I begin my story, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like button if you have ever been underestimated like I was. I first met Natalie when her BMW broke down near my shop. She came into the coffee shop next door looking frustrated, asking if anyone knew a good mechanic. I raised my hand and offered to take a look. Her radiator hose had burst, a quick fix really, but the way she looked at me with those grateful blue eyes made time stand still. "You saved my day, Colton," she said, reading my name tag. "Let me buy you coffee sometime to thank you." That coffee turned into dinner, and dinner turned into the most intense relationship of my life. On paper, we were complete opposites. I was a mechanic with grease permanently embedded in my fingerprints, and she was a financial analyst at Burton & Myers, one of the biggest investment firms in the city. But somehow it worked. I had loved cars since I was 8 years old, when my grandfather would let me hand him tools while he worked on his old Chevy. By 12, I could change oil myself, and by 16, I had rebuilt my first engine. It was never just a job to me. Each vehicle had a story, a personality, problems that needed solving. My dream was to open my own specialty garage one day, focusing on restoring classic American muscle cars. Natalie seemed to love my passion. In those early days, she would sit on a stool in whatever garage I was working at, asking questions about carburetors and transmissions, genuinely interested in my world. "Your hands create magic," she would say, watching me bring an engine back to life. Not many people have a gift like that. After 2 years together, I proposed. I had saved for months to buy a ring, but ended up using my grandmother's vintage diamond ring instead. It felt right, passing down a family treasure to the woman I loved. "It is perfect," Natalie had whispered as I slipped it onto her finger during a picnic at sunset. "Just like you, we started planning our future together. We found an affordable apartment, combined our finances, and set goals. Mine was to save enough for a down payment on a small commercial space for my garage. Natalie talked about climbing the corporate ladder, but always included my dreams in our plans. "When you open your garage," she would say, "I will handle the books. We will be a power couple." I believed every word. Everything changed when Natalie got promoted to deputy investment director. Suddenly, she was making nearly 3 times my salary and moving in entirely new circles. Her new position came with invitations to exclusive events, networking dinners, and weekend retreats. The first time I noticed something was off was when she mentioned her new colleague, Jackson. He was the director of investment strategy, apparently brilliant and well-connected. At first, it was just casual mentions of his market insights or business advice. "Jackson says the tech sector is going to explode." Next quarter, she would comment over dinner, or "Jackson introduced me to some potential clients from Singapore today." Then came Heather and Thomas, more colleagues from her new department. Suddenly, Natalie was always busy with after-work drinks or weekend brunches with this new crowd. She started coming home later smelling of expensive restaurants and wine. When I finally met them at a company event, I felt like an alien. Jackson was tall, with perfectly styled hair, and a watch that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. He barely acknowledged me after Natalie introduced me as my fiancé, Colton. He works with cars. Heather looked at my hands, noticing the traces of engine grease that never fully wash away, and subtly wiped her own after shaking mine. Thomas asked if I had considered getting into management, as if being a mechanic was just a temporary phase until I found a real career. Natalie noticed my discomfort but did nothing to defend me. Instead, on the ride home, she suggested, "Maybe you could wear something besides jeans and button-ups to these events, and perhaps use that special mechanic soap I bought you before meeting my colleagues." I tried to adapt. I bought nicer clothes for her events. I scrubbed my hands until they were raw before meeting her friends. I supported her late nights, the constant phone calls and texts that would interrupt our rare moments together. "It is just how business works," she would explain when her phone buzzed with messages from Jackson at 11 p.m. "We have to be available." I told myself it was just a phase, that she was adjusting to her new role, that things would calm down soon. I was wrong. "Do you really think you will ever save enough for your little garage?" Natalie asked one night over dinner 6 months after her promotion. There was something in her tone I had never heard before. Condescension. I looked up from my plate, stunned. "We have been saving together for almost a year now." "I know, but at your salary." She let the sentence hang. Meanwhile, Jackson just bought his second investment property. He says real estate in the financial district is the smart move right now. It became a pattern. Every conversation somehow included Jackson and his achievements, followed by thinly veiled comparisons to my own situation. The worst moment came when I surprised Natalie by picking her up after work. I had just finished a complex transmission rebuild and did not have time to go home and shower. When she saw me waiting in the lobby, she looked mortified. "You smell like a service station," she hissed, pulling me toward the exit before her colleagues could see us. "Could you not have cleaned up first?" That night, we had our first major fight. I reminded her that my job was the reason we met, that she used to appreciate my skills. She apologized, said she was stressed, but something had fundamentally shifted. The following week, she needed me to attend a dinner with her new team. I wore my best clothes, cleaned my nails meticulously, even used the expensive cologne she had bought me. It did not matter. Throughout dinner, Jackson and the others made subtle jabs about blue-collar work and asked if I found it fulfilling to just fix things all day. One of them even asked if I had considered going to night school to find a proper career. What hurt most was Natalie laughing along, offering no defense. When Thomas made a joke about me being good with my hands, she smiled and said, "He has other qualities too," as if she needed to justify being with me. The gap between us grew wider. Natalie postponed wedding planning, citing work stress. I began finding mysterious texts from Jackson on her phone that stopped just short of being inappropriate. Just colleague banter, she would say if I questioned them. She started coming home with unfamiliar cologne scents on her clothes and would immediately shower. Our intimate life became nearly non-existent. Everything I did became subject to criticism. My table manners were unrefined. The way I spoke was too casual for her professional image. My friends were limited in their worldview. I tried to reconnect by planning a romantic weekend away, but she canceled at the last minute for an emergency client meeting. Later, I discovered from her social media that she had been at a rooftop bar with Jackson and others, no clients in sight. Our joint account, where we had been saving for our future, started showing withdrawals I knew nothing about. Expensive restaurants, designer stores, weekend trips that were supposedly work-related. I was losing her, and worse, I was losing myself, trying to be someone she would still want. It was a Tuesday night when everything fell apart. Natalie came home later than usual, slightly tipsy, and with a strange energy about her. "Colton, we need to talk about our relationship," she said, pouring herself another glass of wine. "I have been thinking about this for a while." I braced myself for a breakup, but what came was somehow worse. "I think we should consider opening our relationship," she said carefully, studying my reaction. "It would be good for both of us." I felt like I had been punched. "Both of us? You want me to see other people too?" She laughed, a short, sharp sound that cut through me. "Well, no. I meant more for me. Let us be realistic about your opportunities, Colton." When I did not respond, she continued, "I am moving in different circles now, meeting successful, ambitious men who understand my world. Men like Jackson." The room seemed to tilt. "Jackson, are you already seeing him?" She did not even have the decency to look ashamed. "For about 2 months now. He connects with me intellectually, understands the pressures I face. And I do not, because I am a mechanic." My voice sounded strange to my own ears. "Precisely," she exclaimed, as if relieved I finally understood. "You are just a mechanic, Colton. A good one, sure, but you lack ambition. You will never understand the world I live in now." She reached for my hand across the table. I pulled away. "I still care about you," she continued. "We could still get married. You would have security, stability. I just need more intellectual stimulation and social advancement than you can provide." The final blow came when she added, "This arrangement would only be open on my end, because honestly, what professional woman would be interested in someone who fixes cars for a living? I am doing you a favor by staying." I sat in stunned silence while she outlined her vision of our future. Me waiting at home while she attended events with her kind of people. Me accepting the scraps of her attention while she built a life with men she deemed worthy. Me financing her lifestyle while she explored connections with others. The woman I loved had not just betrayed me. She had revealed she never truly respected me at all. After she went to bed, convinced she had presented a reasonable proposition, I stayed up all night. Something told me to dig deeper. If she was capable of this level of disrespect, what else had she done? I opened her laptop, which she often left logged in on our shared desk. Her email was still open. What I found shattered any lingering doubts. Dozens of emails between her and her colleagues mocking me, She had shared private details of our relationship, calling me her simple mechanic and the loyal puppy. In one particularly painful exchange with Heather, she referred to me as my naive fool who still thinks we are getting married. There were detailed emails about trips with Jackson using money from our joint savings, our future home fund. Photos of them together at hotels during weekends she claimed to be at conferences. Most disturbing was an email to a lawyer inquiring about how assets would be divided if we married, and later divorced, specifically asking if she would be liable for his failed business ventures if I ever managed to open my garage. The final proof was an email to Jackson sent just hours before her open relationship proposal, going to have the talk with Colton tonight. He is so desperate to keep me, he will probably agree to anything. Then we can stop sneaking around. I checked our joint account. Nearly 80% of our savings was gone. For hours, I documented everything, taking screenshots, downloading emails, printing bank statements. Then I called in sick to work and prepared for her return. When Natalie came home that evening, I had spread the evidence across our dining table. Bank statements, email printouts, photos, everything meticulously organized. "What is all this?" she asked, setting down her purse. "Please take a seat," I said calmly. "I think we need to discuss our open relationship in more detail." Her face paled as she realized what she was looking at. "You went through my private emails. That is, invasion of privacy. Interesting that your first concern is privacy, not the fact that you have been cheating, stealing, and plotting against me," I replied, still maintaining my composure. "Which email would you like to explain?" "First, the one where you call me your naive fool, or perhaps the one discussing how to protect your assets from me." "Colton, you are taking things out of context," she stammered, but her eyes darted nervously between the papers. "I do not think there is a context where stealing $80,000 from our joint savings makes sense, Natalie. Money we both contributed to. Money for our future." She tried a different approach. "Jackson means nothing to me. It was a mistake. A stupid office fling. A 2-month fling with multiple weekend trips using my money." I pushed forward a stack of hotel receipts. "You know what hurts most. Not the cheating. It is that you actually believe I am worthless, because I am a mechanic." Something changed in her expression then, like a mask slipping. "Well, what did you expect? That I would be content with someone who will never make more than $50,000 a year, whose idea of success is a tiny garage fixing old cars?" I expected honesty, I replied. "I expected respect for the man you agreed to marry." I held out my hand. "I will be taking my grandmother's ring back." That got her attention. "You cannot do that. It is legally mine now as a gift." "Actually," I said, "family heirlooms remain the property of the original family in broken engagements. I consulted my own lawyer this morning. The ring, please." Reluctantly, she removed it and slammed it into my palm. "There is something else you should know," I continued. "I have already transferred the remaining 20% of our savings from the joint account back to my personal account. And since this apartment is leased solely in my name, you have 48 hours to find new accommodations." Her face contorted with rage and disbelief. "You cannot do this to me, I already have," I said quietly. "Oh, and I took the liberty of forwarding some interesting emails to your HR department. The ones detailing how you and Jackson have been using the company expense account for your personal trips might be of particular interest to them." She went pale. "You did what?" "Just a mechanic looking out for corporate financial integrity," I said with a small smile. "I may not understand high finance, but I know theft when I see it." She collapsed into a chair, the reality of her situation sinking in. "Colton, please. We can work this out." I was confused, stressed from work. "Pack your things, Natalie," I said, standing up. "We are done." As I walked out of the room, leaving her staring at the evidence of her betrayal, I felt something unexpected, not just anger or heartbreak, but relief. For the first time since her promotion, I could breathe again. The weeks after Natalie moved out were some of the hardest of my life. Our apartment, once warm with memories, felt hollow and strange. I wandered the rooms at night, replaying our relationship, wondering how I had missed the signs, how someone I trusted completely could have such little regard for me. My oldest friend Marcus was my lifeline during this time. He showed up with beer and pizza, listened without judgment, and reminded me who I was when I felt lost. "She did not deserve you," he would say. "Never did." My sister Sophia drove 3 hours every weekend for a month, just to make sure I was eating properly and had clean laundry. She was the one who suggested I channel my energy into something constructive. "You always wanted to learn more about the business side of things," she reminded me. "Why not take some courses now?" I enrolled in a business management class at the local community college. Twice a week, I would sit in a classroom after my shift learning about financial statements, marketing strategies, and business plans. For the first time in months, I felt my mind engaged with something other than betrayal. At the garage where I worked, I threw myself into the most challenging projects, finding comfort in the honesty of mechanical problems. Engines do not lie. They do not pretend to be something they are not. A broken part is a broken part. A solution either works or it does not. One afternoon, an elderly gentleman named Scott brought in a rare 1967 Shelby GT 500. Most of the mechanics were intimidated by such a valuable vehicle, but I volunteered immediately. Not many people understand these old beauties anymore, Scott commented, watching me work. They are honest machines, I replied. Everything has a purpose, no unnecessary parts. I respect that. We talked for hours about classic cars restoration techniques, the dying art of mechanical problem solving. As he was leaving with his perfectly running Shelby, he handed me his card. I own Thompson Classic Restorations across town, he said. I could use someone with your skills and passion. 20% more than you are making here, plus profit sharing. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of possibility, a new path opening. Working with Scott changed everything. I was surrounded by people who valued craftsmanship, who understood that working with your hands was not just a fallback career but a calling that required intelligence, creativity, and dedication. Gradually, I started rebuilding my confidence. I joined a local hiking group, something I had always wanted to try but Natalie had dismissed as too outdoorsy. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during my relationship. One of our regular customers, a retired investment banker named Gerald, took an interest in my business classes and offered to teach me about personal finance and investment. The irony was not lost on me that I was now learning about Natalie's world, but on my own terms. Most people in finance just follow trends, Gerald told me. True financial intelligence is about understanding value, patience, and recognizing opportunity where others see nothing. I thought about how Natalie and her friends had never recognized the value in what I did, the satisfaction of solving problems, the honor in creating something that lasts. 6 months after the breakup, Scott called me into his office. Colton, I am promoting you to technical manager. You will oversee all our restoration projects and train the junior mechanics. The salary increase was substantial, nearly double what I had been making when Natalie and I were together. But more important was the recognition of my expertise, my dedication to the craft. Word spread in the classic car community about my work. Collectors began requesting me specifically for their rare vehicles. I developed a reputation for being able to solve problems other mechanics could not, for understanding the soul of these machines. I saved aggressively, investing wisely with Gerald's guidance. Within a year, I had enough for a substantial down payment on a small commercial property on the edge of town. My dream of opening my own specialized garage was no longer just a fantasy. Through the car collector community, I heard about Natalie occasionally. After my email to HR, both she and Jackson had been investigated for misuse of company funds. Jackson had been fired outright, while Natalie had been demoted and placed on probation. Their relationship had collapsed under the strain. I felt no pleasure in her difficulties, only a distant sadness for what could have been if she had valued honesty and loyalty over status and appearances. I was at a charity car show displaying a restored 1970 Dodge Challenger when I ran into Thomas and Heather, Natalie's old colleagues. Their shock at seeing me as a featured restorer was almost comical. Colt and Heather approached cautiously. "This is your work. It is incredible." Thomas examined the car with newfound respect. I had no idea restoration work was so sophisticated. The attention to detail is remarkable. It takes patience, technical knowledge, and artistic vision, I explained not unkindly, plus business acumen to make it profitable. We chatted politely, the past unmentioned but hanging between us. As they turned to leave, Thomas hesitated. "Natalie made a mistake," he said quietly. "For what it is worth, I think she knows that now." 2 weeks later, Jackson showed up at Scott's garage with his Ferrari. 3 high-end shops had failed to diagnose an elusive electrical problem. "I heard you are the best," he said, not meeting my eyes, clearly uncomfortable. I could have refused him service. Part of me wanted to. Instead, I took his keys and said, "We will call you when it is ready." It took 4 hours to trace the issue to a faulty ground wire hidden behind the dashboard. When Jackson returned, he seemed surprised that I had personally worked on his car. "You could have turned me away," he said as he paid the bill. "That is not how professionals behave," I replied simply. His face flushed with shame as the implications sank in. He had never been professional in his dealings with me. For what it is worth, he said haltingly. Things fell apart with Natalie after everything. She is not the person I thought she was. I nodded. None of us were. Looking back now, I realized that losing Natalie was the wake-up call I needed. She was right about one thing: I had lacked ambition. Not because I was a mechanic, but because I had stopped pushing myself, stopped growing. The greatest freedom came from no longer needing to prove my worth to someone incapable of seeing it. I learned that respect cannot be begged for. It must be either freely given or it is worthless. I discovered who my true friends were. People like Marcus, who stood by me at my lowest. Sophia, who never doubted my potential. Scott, who saw value in my skills when I had forgotten their worth. Gerald, who shared knowledge freely with no expectation of return. 6 months ago, I met Ellie, an art teacher who brought her ancient Volkswagen Beetle to my newly opened garage. She watched me work with genuine interest, asking intelligent questions, admiring the precision and care I put into even a simple repair. It is like art, she said. Solving puzzles, bringing something back to life. We have been dating slowly, cautiously. She respects my work because she understands passion, the drive to create and repair. She sees me clearly, not as a stepping stone or a compromise, but as a complete person with skills and values worth appreciating. I started a weekend program teaching basic car maintenance to teenagers from disadvantaged backgrounds. Seeing their pride when they master a new skill reminds me daily of the value in working with your hands, in understanding how things work, in being able to fix what is broken. I heard through mutual friends that Natalie changed jobs and cities after the scandal at her firm. She reportedly struggles in relationships, now having difficulty trusting partners after what happened with Jackson. Part of me hopes she has learned from our story. Last month I sent her a brief email, not to reconnect but to offer closure. I told her I had forgiven her and wished her happiness. She replied with a long apology that seemed genuine, acknowledging that her ambition had blinded her to what truly matters in life. Scott is now talking about retirement in a few years, with me taking over the business. Combined with my own garage, specializing in American classics, it would make me one of the premier restoration experts in the state. The lesson I carry forward is simple. Never let someone else define your value. A person who truly loves you will see your worth without you having to prove it, and will walk beside you as you grow, not ahead of you or behind. Have you ever had someone underestimate you because of your job or passion? Share your story in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life experiences. Remember, sometimes the people who walk away from us do us the greatest favor. Thank you for listening, and I wish you the courage to value yourself even when others fail to do so.